Body cam video, the San Diego Sheriff's Department says, shows a deputy collapsing from an overdose after touching fentanyl is facing more scrutiny tonight. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Marcella Lee.
And I'm Jesse Pagan. Carlo has a night off. Last night, the Sheriff's Department released the full body cam video from both deputies, each lasting more than 50 minutes. News 8's Kirsten Holmes showed the video so doctors and toxicologists. Kirsten, what did those experts have to say?
You know, just watching the video, you can see, at minimum, a medical emergency according to doctors. But the experts we talked to today who saw the full video say it only leads them to further believe this is not an opioid or a fentanyl overdose.
Pulse 6, serve me 1141 for my partner. You all right, dude?
This video released from the San Diego Sheriff's Office is serving, they say, as a public service announcement about the dangers of fentanyl.
And we just got fentanyl too, so.
But doctors who specialize in substance abuse say
the chance of actually accidentally overdosing by being near or around fentanyl it's almost impossible, and there's been few to no recorded cases anywhere.
Dr. Brandon Del Pozo is a former police chief and now studies substance abuse. He says something is wrong with Deputy Fayavai, but it's not an overdose.
I don't think for a second that the officers staged this. I think that when you looked at the genuine concern on behalf of the training officer, it just didn't strike me as people putting on a show. It could be a psychosomatic component to thinking that you're about to die and falling over. Even though nothing's really going on with the opioids. All they know from what they've heard is that it could kill them in seconds. It elevates their heart rate. It could cause fainting. It could cause a panic attack.
And the nocebo effect is when you believe that something's going to hurt you or cause you harm, then you can experience negative symptoms.
Ryan Marino, a medical toxicologist, agrees, saying now that he's seen the full unedited body cam video,
I did too.
He's even more convinced that this isn't an opioid overdose.
He doesn't ever stop breathing. He's kind of rigid, eyes open. All of that stuff just is really not consistent with what I see. This was some sort of stress or panic reaction just from the fear of being around something like fentanyl.
The video is still posted as a PSA on the San Diego Sheriff's Office YouTube page with more than 2 million views in just 8 days. And Marino says that's causing more confusion at a time when the dangers of fentanyl and other opioids are real. Marino says this video leaves viewers and other first responders like police and deputies who come into contact with fentanyl in the position to have this type of reaction unnecessarily.
Law enforcement has a difficult job. They are in stressful situations all the time. So if we're able to take kind of one more worry, one more stressor off the table for them, that's great.
Breathe. It's all right.
The San Diego Sheriff's Department says that there were no toxicology screens for Detective Fayavai or Deputy Fayavai when he was taken to the hospital after this incident that was caught on camera. So there's no way to ever know or verify if this was indeed an opioid overdose from fentanyl or not. But keep in mind, that's normal procedure because the doctors we talked to say hospitals don't have to test for drugs to treat overdosing patients.
Enlightening. Thank you, Kirsten. Tonight, the Drug Policy Alliance is leading a petition effort to get Sheriff Gore to take down the video. In a tweet, they wrote the PSA falsely claims that the officer suffered an overdose from touching fentanyl, saying, quote, this myth leads to harmful policies that overcriminalize/harm but don't help people.
A former member of a National City church is in jail tonight, accused of trying to light it on fire.
The fire started early yesterday morning at the Church of Christ. Police arrested 37-year-old Ace Tomas Rancudo. Officers say they saw Rancudo and his car on surveillance video. Fire damaged the outside of the building, but fortunately no one was hurt. A school for students with learning differences is facing off against Del Mar leaders after the Del Mar City Council voted to end the school's lease.
The Winston School, which serves about 100 students in grades 6 through 12, now has until 2023 to find a new location. News 8's Shannon Handy is digging into the controversy and finding out why the city says they just couldn't make it work.
The Winston School has been here since 1988. Supporters say it's unthinkable to end its lease considering how many kids benefit from this place. But city leaders maintain they tried to make it work. The school just didn't do their part. Back in 2020, News 8 was at the Winston School to cover its first ever drive-through graduation. At that time, parents, students, and staff were elated.
Now, 1 year later, they're angry after the Del Mar City Council voted this week to end their lease in 2023.
I'm mortified. I am disappointed. I'm appalled.
Laura Gallinson's daughter graduated last year. She calls the school life-changing for how it caters to children with all types of learning and behavioral challenges. Not having it here, she says, would be a big loss.
I'm not going to stand for it, and a lot of funders in this town and a lot of very important people are not going to stand for the eviction of kids who have special needs.
The Winston School, located on 9th Street in Del Mar, has been a tenant at the site since opening in 1988. In 2008, the city purchased the property from the Del Mar Union School District and took over as landlord. A lease agreed to in 2010 sent out requirements for the school to produce plans for major redevelopment by certain deadlines. Due to the pandemic, the city gave the school extensions on those deadlines. School director Dr. Dina Harris says so far, she submitted 13 plans, all of which were sent back.
I am really surprised. We have done everything the city has asked.
Dr. Harris feels as though city leaders have an ulterior motive and possibly want to use the land for something else, like affordable housing.
There are members on the city council and I believe individuals at the city staff who have other priorities for this property.
But Del Mar Mayor Terry Gasterland says that's not the case, maintaining she and other city leaders tried to make it work.
We gave them 5 extensions on their deadline and asked them, you need to submit your plans, you need to redo these buildings. We worked with them to define what that meant. And over time, they just didn't get the materials in.
At this point, the lease ends July 1st, 2023. Dr. Harris and others say that date means little to them, vowing to figure out a way to stay.
Winston's here to stay, and I'm not going to give up.
School officials say they're looking at all options, including legal ones, to ensure the school is able to stay. For now, the new year starts here in about 3 weeks.
All right, Shannon, thanks. New data released today shows July was the busiest month for illegal border crossings in 2 decades. Crossing attempts typically decline in the summer due to desert heat, but not this year. Customs and Border Protection says last month it took more than 212,000 people into custody, including nearly 83,000 people traveling in family groups. Nearly 19,000 unaccompanied minors were apprehended at the border. This month, the Biden administration began flying migrants who were stopped at the southern border all the way to the interior of Mexico to try and keep them from crossing the border again.
CBP officials say someone shot at Border Patrol agents near the border earlier this week. It happened around 9 Monday night while the agents were arresting a group of undocumented migrants 2 miles east of the Otay Mesa port of entry. Officials say they were about 250 yards north of the border when they heard what sounded like gunshots, and that's when they took cover. Witnesses say they saw people on the Mexican side of the border in a truck and motorcycle, but U.S. and Mexican investigators have not found any suspects. No one was hurt. A countywide eviction ban is expected to expire tomorrow.
Right now, landlords cannot remove a tenant even if they want to move back into their own property or make major repairs. Landlords are also not allowed to evict a tenant for just cause, like lease violations. While renters will lose those protections tomorrow, the statewide moratorium will stay in place through September 30th. That protects tenants who cannot pay their rent because of COVID-related hardships. And today, a federal judge upheld the Biden administration's federal eviction ban that was set to expire in 2 weeks, but has been extended by about 2 more months.